With a knot in my stomach, I step into the building that houses the company. I replay the scenario in my mind over and over, wondering how best to apologize to the CEO. My whole body is icy cold, my knees tremble, and my heart is pounding wildly. I force a smile onto my twitching lips and, opening the door, I greet loudly. "Good morning. I'm very sorry for what happened yesterday." I bow my head deeply and feel all eyes in the room turn to me.
"You, the insolent guy who didn't attend the induction ceremony yesterday."
A deep voice resounds throughout the office. It's President Johnson. Lifting my face, I see he's visibly in a foul mood, glaring at me. I attempt to explain, but am cut off instantly.
"Employees who still act like giddy college students can't get out. We don't need you in our company."
Everything goes black before my eyes. After much hardship, I finally managed to join the company, and I deeply regret what I've done. I was raised by my mother alone. She worked multiple jobs, not wanting me to have a hard life, and allowed me to go to high school. I intended to repay my mother's kindness by working right after graduation. But
if you genuinely want to work right after high school, Jack, I won't say anything. But if you really want to go to college, you should go. Don't worry about the money, we'll manage somehow.
my mother's words encouraged me, and I decided to pursue higher education. However, not wanting to burden her financially, I managed to secure as many scholarships as possible and take out student loans. While attending college, I wanted to help financial support for the household through part-time jobs, but just making ends meet was a struggle. I wanted to start working as soon as possible to give my mother a break. However, my job hunt, which began in April of my junior year, could have gone better, and all I received were rejection emails. Some companies did not even contact me, making me feel worthless. Amidst all this company finally gave me a chance, and I was brimming with hope, ready to work my hardest. I couldn't attend the induction ceremony due to an unexpected incident.
Can't believe you're a working man now, Jack. You've grown up.
My mother said with a sentimental tone on the morning of the induction ceremony, to which I playfully acted annoyed to hide my embarrassment. Enough already, how often will you say the same thing? In reality, I was more excited than anyone else, and I had been eagerly waiting for this day. To avoid being late, I left home early. On the way to the subway station, there was a river bank where you'd typically see people walking their dogs or jogging, but this morning, it was deserted. As I was enjoying the fresh air on my walk, I heard a small scream accompanied by an unusual sound of water splashing. Turning around, I saw a little girl drowning in the river. The shock froze me in place for a moment, but almost immediately, I was running toward the river. I took off my jacket and threw my bag aside before diving in. I had been part of the swim team in high school and was confident in my swimming abilities, but I hadn't expected swimming in clothes to be so challenging. Nevertheless, I frantically paddled my way toward the girl. When I reached her, she was utterly exhausted, her movements feeble. I watched her sink in front of me, dive in, and pick up her limp body. Despite the buoyancy that should have been at play, the little girl felt as heavy as lead. She was unconscious. Immediately, I called for an ambulance, scanning around for anyone who could lend a hand. That's when I noticed the sign for an AED by the restroom storage, and I dashed to grab the device. I'd taken an AED training course back in college, but I'd never had to use it in a real-life scenario. Yet, my mind was occupied with the desire to save the life that was potentially fading right before my eyes. I applied the child-sized pads and pressed the switch. Praying for the ambulance to arrive quickly, I performed CPR relentlessly. During this time, people walking their dogs or jogging would pass by. They'd look over with worried expressions but keep moving, as if this had nothing to do with them. I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread, wondering what would have happened if I hadn't stepped in to help the girl. Finally, with a piercing siren, the ambulance arrived, and the paramedics quickly began assessing the girl's condition. There was no contact information for any family members among the girl's belongings. Worried, I decided to accompany her out of sympathy. However, as I wrapped myself in a blanket and climbed into the ambulance, the reality of the situation hit me hard. Damn it, I was supposed to be at my company's induction ceremony today. What am I doing? I had had my wristwatch submerged in water, and droplets clung to the inside of the glass. Pulling out my smartphone from my bag, I found the ceremony had already begun. A chill ran down my spine, spreading to my fingertips and leaving me trembling. Upon my arrival at the hospital, I hurriedly called my company to apologize for missing the induction ceremony due to unforeseen circumstances. I also sent an email explaining the situation and apologizing, but I couldn't shake off the anxiety about missing the ceremony. Still, I couldn't leave this place. In the hospital room, I held onto the hand of the sleeping girl. After a while, her hand twitched slightly. Turning my gaze, I saw her eyelids slowly flutter open.
Where am I?
Even though her voice was faint, I felt relieved. I pressed the nurse call button, got her checked by the doctor, and exhaled a sigh of relief when I was told she was all right. "You were drowning in the river," I said. Tears began to well up in the girl's eyes at my words.
I couldn't see my mom.
Choking up, she told me her story. She said she had jumped into the river, intending to join her deceased mother. Upon inquiry, I learned that the girl was 9 years old. When I was around your age, I lost my dad to an illness. I didn't have a particularly close relationship with my dad. On work days, he'd come home only after I'd gone to bed, and even when he was home, he'd watch TV or read the newspaper. But on rare off days, we'd play catch or soccer, or he'd take me to the zoo. It made me sad when I thought about how I'd never have those moments again, and I regretted not cherishing our time together more. I was depressed for a long time, but I realized that I still had to keep living. Because my dad is watching over me, worried. The girl began to cry.
I wonder if my mom is watching, if she's worried.
I gently nodded in response. If you can't locate her guardian, please contact me. I handed my contact information to the nurse, praying for a happy future for the girl, then left the hospital.
Remember, this is not a layoff due to company reasons. It's a voluntary resignation.
President Johnson pointed his finger at me. I'm quitting this company without working a single day. This morning's image of my mom's smile tightened my chest. Just then, a woman entered with a pale face. The president's secretary.
President.
What is it? You're loud.
The president responded with an annoyed look.
It's a crisis. Congressman Michael Harrison has come to visit.
Even someone like me, who doesn't know much about politics, had heard his name. He is a state congressman who has announced his candidacy for the upcoming state governor election and is said to be the leading candidate. He is a prominent politician. For the president, who runs a construction-related company, it would be desirable to be on good terms with such a prominent politician who is a local celebrity.
What? Why here? Well, it doesn't matter. It's a chance to make connections. Show him in immediately.
The president showed his excitement, then glared at me.
Hey, a VIP is coming. Get out of here immediately.
I was completely treated as a nuisance. There were no arrangements for my seat, so I was going home with my bag. The door opened as I was about to leave, and Congressman Harrison entered. As expected of a prominent politician, he had a presence and I could feel a strong aura. He excused me. As I hurriedly jumped back, he suddenly took my hand.
You're Jack, aren't you?
I was surprised to hear my name called. Yes, that's right, but... I was stunned as Congressman Harrison suddenly called out my name. The president and the secretary were also stunned.
Thank you so much for helping, Catherine.
He clenched my hand tightly and shook his shoulders, tears streaming down his face. Catherine was the name of the girl who had drowned in the river. Catherine's mother, in other words, Congressman Harrison's daughter, had died and everyone was sunk in grief. They had been unable even to consider Catherine, who had lost her mother and had not noticed her sorrow and pain. Still, Catherine had started going to school and seemed to be gradually recovering from her sorrow. However, one day 3 weeks after her mother's funeral, they thought she had gone to school, but they got a call from a teacher saying Catherine hadn't come. Her backpack was abandoned on the road from home to school, and there was a fuss as they thought it was a kidnapping, but there was no contact from the perpetrator. While grieving, they were searching for her when they got a call from the hospital and rushed to Catherine's side.
I often apologized to Catherine, saying I'm sorry. She told me I won't do this again because my mom would be sad. My big brother said so.
Knowing that my feelings at that time had been conveyed, my heart warmed. Then, President Johnson spoke to Congressman Harrison in a flattering voice.
How about that? Our employees are excellent, right? Since he's the one who saved your granddaughter's life, maybe you can give us some special consideration from now on.
Just moments ago, President Johnson insisted that I go home immediately, so I was surprised by his sudden change of attitude.
I am striving for clean politics. You were about to fire Jack, weren't you? I heard you loud and clear.
President Johnson choked on his words.
I can't imagine that you would let go of a brilliant employee who risked his future to help others, would you?
Congressman Harrison's powerful words bore down heavily on him, causing President Johnson's face to contort.
No, there's no way. I would do such a thing.
Later on, I was invited to Congressman Harrison's home. I was overwhelmed by the magnificent mansion standing in front of me. It indeed was the home of a high-profile politician. Even though it was just one subway stop away, I had no idea he lived so close.
Jack, thank you so much for the other day.
Catherine, who looked lovely in a beautiful dress and neatly tied her hair, welcomed me. I was genuinely happy that I had helped her that day. She took me by the hand and gave me a house tour. As we entered the living room, a man in a suit, despite being indoors, raised his head and deeply bowed as he approached.
I'm Catherine's father. I don't know how to thank you for helping my daughter. I truly appreciate it.
He was Congressman Harrison's chief secretary. Just then, Congressman Harrison, dressed in a formal suit, appeared.
Please have a seat, Jack.
With a sense of humility, I took the offered seat. Upon being asked by Congressman Harrison, I told him about my past.
Heidi was brought up by a single mother. She struggled to raise me, which can greatly strike a chord with your story.
He had gone to work after graduating middle school, attending night school, and eventually going to college.
I didn't start out wanting to be a politician. But as I began to feel the injustice in the world, my desire to create a society that helps the weak grew. And that's when I decided to become a congressman. It's been a long journey to get to where I am.
Congressman Harrison also shared his hardships from his early days as a congressman. I only had one desire, to ease my mother's hardships. I never thought about changing the world. But your story has left a deep impression on me, Congressman Harrison. To which Congressman Harrison responded,
If you're interested in what I'm doing, Jack, why don't we give it a shot together?
I looked up. Thanks to Congressman Harrison, I was able to keep my job. But the unpaid overtime, expected work on holidays, lack of proper job training, and daily exposure to workplace harassment drained me. I could not find motivation in my work and began questioning whether this was the right path for me. I would appreciate that, thank you. Subsequently, I became Congressman Harrison's deputy secretary. When my mother heard the news, she was taken aback.
Oh my, I can't believe. It's fascinating how life works. There must be some divine intervention.
Speaking of divine intervention, President Johnson's company was making the news for its explicit collusion with politicians. To change such a society, I intensely wished for Congressman Harrison to become the state governor. Campaigning for the governor's election was extremely busy, working from morning till midnight. But everyone was united in their pursuit of victory, and I felt a sense of purpose. The suspense of waiting for the election results was nerve-wracking. Hearing of Congressman Harrison's victory, I was overjoyed and tearfully embraced everyone. I had never experienced such excitement, not even during my student days. Catherine was also there at the venue.
Congrats, Grandpa.
Catherine handed a bouquet to Congressman Harrison with a bright smile. Harrison, all smiles himself, lifted her in a warm embrace. Having almost lost my job and unable to attend the induction ceremony, I felt my life was over, but after meeting the congressman, a new path opened up before me. I cherish this connection and am determined to help Congressman Harrison in his mission to build a world that looks out for the vulnerable. I aim to contribute a little to this noble cause.